For today, we're going to take a look at graphing linear equations. So in your geometry notebook, we should be flipping to the second page. For Chapter 1, Learning Target 1 on solving equations, you should have your chart for steps for solving equations and then at least two examples, possibly on the back of that page. And what we're going to do today is look at the second page. So in class, you should have received this foldable. If not, it is available on the website. So just go ahead and print it off. It is double-sided, so you'll want to make sure that you do that. And this is for learning target number 2, which is graphing equations. So once you have this all set up in your notebook, we do want to take a look at 3 different types of equations. We're going to look at standard form, slope-intercept form, and point-slope form. And my guess is that this slope-intercept form is the one that you're most familiar with, but we are going to take a look at the other two just so that you can become familiar with those, and maybe you'll prefer another method or another form besides the slope-intercept form. So if we open this up and take a look, at the top, they kind of give us some directions. So for standard form, what we want to do is figure out how to plot the x-intercept and the y-intercept. We can find the x-intercept by removing the y, or making the y value equal to 0, plugging 0 in for y, and then solving for x. And then we can find the x-intercept. To do that, we would plug x in for 0, or 0 in for x, and then solve for y. And then once we have an x-intercept and a y-intercept, we can go ahead and plot those 2 points, and we only need 2 points to draw a line. So for this one, if we want to find the x-intercept, what we're going to do is we're going to plug in 0 for y. So if I plug in 0 for y, I get 2x plus 3 times 0 equals 6. But 3 times 0 is just 0, so really that term can go away. And so we end up with 2x equals 6, so then our x-intercept has to be 3. So I know that there's going to be a point on my x-axis at 3. And now I can do the same thing for the y-intercept, except this time I'm going to let x be 0. So I'm going to plug in 0 for x. And again, 2 times 0 is 0, so that basically goes away. And now I have 3y is equal to 6. So my y-intercept value is going to be 2. So on my y-axis, I know that I'm going to have a dot or a point at positive 2. And then all I need to plot or to graph a line is 2 points. And so I have those 2 points, one on the x-axis, one on the y-axis. And so I can just go ahead, connect those 2 points using my ruler, and then make sure you have arrows on both ends, and we're just going to go ahead and label it 2x plus 3y equals 6. All right, the second form is one that you're probably more familiar with. This is slope-intercept form, and this is slope-intercept form because in the equation, once you get it into y equals mx plus b form, the slope and the y-intercept are hidden in the equation. So if we take a look at this with y equals mx plus b, m is actually your slope, and b is your y-intercept. Now again, this should be review. This isn't something that is brand new. You definitely have seen this before. So if we take a look at an equation in slope-intercept form, like y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2, it's already in the right form. I have y by itself, everything else is on the other side of the equal sign, and so now I can go ahead and pick out my slope, which is the number in front of the x, which is a negative 2/3. And then my y-intercept is that number hanging out at the end all by itself here without a variable attached to it. In this case, it's a positive 2. And now to graph that, the first thing I want to do is use my y-intercept. So I'm going to put a point on the y-axis at 2. And now I'm going to use my slope to find the other point. So I'm going to rise negative 2 and run 3. Remember, your slope gives you your rise over your run. So from this point right here, I'm going to rise negative 3, which means to go down 2. Rise negative 2, which means go down 2. And then run a positive 3, which means go to the right 3. And again, I have my 2 points. I can go ahead and connect those 2 points with my ruler to get a straight line. And then I can go ahead and label them. this line is y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. All right, our third form is point slope form. And with this one, the equation actually looks messy, but they give you a lot of information here. With this one, your equation is y minus y1 equals m, which again is your slope, and then times x minus x1. And in that equation, m is your slope, and then the x1 and the y1 are the two coordinates, or the two points, the x value and the y value of a point that makes up a point on the line. So with this one, if we have the equation y minus 4 equals negative 2/3 x plus 3, the point on my line is actually going to be the point 4, negative 3. Now notice that in the standard form it's y minus the y value, so this would actually be y minus negative 4. Or sorry, y minus positive 4. And then this would be negative 2/3, and this is x minus a negative 3. And so when you clean that up, you get this version here, y minus 4 equals negative 2/3 and then x plus 3. But basically the easiest way to remember it is when you pull a number out of point slope form, when you're pulling out the coordinates, you have to change the signs. And then again, the slope is the number in front of our x in the parentheses. So our slope again is going to be 2/3, negative 2/3. All right, so to graph this line, we want to start with the point we know, which is the point 4, negative 3. And from here, we're going to use our slope, negative 2/3. Now from this point, if I go down 2 and over 3, I'm suddenly off my graph. So I'm going to use my slope in the opposite direction. So instead of going down 2 and to the right 3, I'm going to go up 2 and to the left 3. All right, and I can do that a couple times. You really only need 2 points to form a line, but sometimes I'll do 3 if they fit, just so that I know that I have a line. And then I'll go ahead and connect the points with my ruler, making sure I have arrows on both ends, and then I can go ahead and name this line with its equation. All right, so hopefully that helps with graphing linear equations. Again, all we're doing with this is graphing lines. If you would like to, go ahead and give yourself a couple to practice. Just plug numbers in, make sure that you understand the different parts of the graphs.